for me, I just pissed at laughing. I thought it was so funny. Hey everyone, I wanted to do a personal solo podcast today on essentially what I had to grow through personally by running a personal development company. And as a company owner and as an entrepreneur, we're always consistently growing and expanding with our businesses. And then it sort of feels like sometimes we have to catch up. And it feels difficult and frustrating sometimes because you're in these, this position where you're unsure about making a decision, or you're not confident here, feel stuck in a rut, looking at a mountain, feeling like, you're never going to scale it or never create it. And then you compare yourself to a whole bunch of people, and then burnout as an entrepreneur, doing something that you love, doesn't come from the form of, oh, I hate my life, I want to put everything into bin and burn it down. It could literally just be, why is my body tired and frustrated and I'm not waking up with energy like I used to? Like, what's happening? What do you mean I'm not loving every single day? That can be signals of burnout coming, and if it's not paid attention to, then look out. You could end up going down the bad route of being like, I hate everything, I want to burn it all down, and being in that position. So I wanted to talk about how you grow, because I believe how you do one thing is how you do everything. How you grow in a relationship, how you grow with your health and fitness, and how you grow with your business are extremely important things to think about when moving forward. And I wrote down some notes, and this isn't everything by all means. This is sort of like a part one, but I wrote down some notes of what I think is honestly some of the best things that I've learned. And I hope you guys get to take things from this and you get to implement this in your life, and you can take some knowledge and some wisdom from this. So essentially I went from $0 to $500,000 revenue in a year through a personal development company, coached over 150 people, which is in 1 year. It was crazy. It blows my mind thinking about it. And you had to deal with, for example, people jumping in and out of your program. I'm just writing that down because I want to touch on that later. People jumping in and out of your program, and like triggers for yourself, like, oh, am I not good enough or something else? Like, you have all these things. You have fear of failing that come in. You have fear of being judged or criticized by others. You have, you compare yourself to your partner. You get all your weaknesses and everything slammed in front of your face. And that's why I believe the entrepreneur's journey and the hero's journey and how they co-link with each other is all a place of personal growth. And if you're going out and you're starting a business and you want to crush it, one little key of warning is make sure you're doing exactly what you want to do, because our fear brain believes that the world is super scarce and it thinks that there is a drought is coming. And if you stay in that position, then you're going to make financial decisions and chase businesses. For example, you might be building websites and doing all these things to try to make money, but you might hate building websites. But instead, you might be in a position where you like working with people and you're a people person. So you're better off running group camps or something like that and having someone else build your websites for you. So save a couple of pennies there and do what you most love. Or it could be the opposite position. You might be working with people, and you might want to be behind building something, amazing out of technology and programming. And I've worked with programmers and other people. So we know what it's like, and I understand you, and I see you, and I hear you, and I hope some of this can help you navigate through some of these problems. So one of the first things that I had to face, and I'm just going to list these out, and then I'm going to go through them one at a time, see if we get through them, because I've got, roughly I want to keep this around 45 minutes so you guys don't have to listen to me for too long. So the main things are owning my weaknesses, projecting onto other people and clients. Ooh, that's a hard one. Understanding staff and clients who don't do something or don't commit usually comes down to their own self-worth and stress. It's nothing to do with you. Number, whatever it is, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is identity shift. That's your business growing, and then you having to update really quickly. And there's up and down and back and forth and back and forth. Crazy. Scarcity mindset. Respect for finances. Your current clients are always your biggest assets. Asking for more money is huge, and your own self-value for that, I think this is one of the most important things ever. And I've also learned a lot, getting my own coach, so I'm going to put that there, has been hugely transformational for myself. Implementing your own boundaries, and then people jumping in and out the program, and then getting your own coach. I wanted to put those there. So that's what we're going to be talking about. The first one is owning my own weaknesses. Now, we teach all these exercises in Set the Standard community. One of them is asking, 5 to 10 people around you your biggest strengths and weaknesses, and having them reflected back in your face. And it's really quite interesting because everything that you do and everything that you see in someone else and how you act is just a mirror reflection of what the universe is going to reflect back at you. I had this example because I'm one of the worst buyers that I know. And instead of doing my due diligence before looking at something and buying, I sort of go through and will talk to people, run through the stuff and think about it. And then I need to think about things for like 6 months to 8 months before I make a purchasing decision. And it's very interesting because all the clients that I attract, I would say like 60 to 70% of them, before they jump onto my program, are like, oh, nah, like I like making long decisions. And I'm like, why does this keep coming in? Like, why does this keep happening? Like, we've got all the stuff proven here, and it's a direct reflection of myself, and I take ownership for that. And it's like, well, that's a weakness. Like, maybe you do your due diligence and your research first before reaching out, and be ready in a financial position before buying, and then make sure that you're buying them and you improve on that, like $100, $1,000, bet that's going to change for, you know, the intentions that you're putting out there. So it's very interesting. And also, so that was just a weakness that got sort of slammed into my face really quickly. There's so many other weaknesses that you see all the time in terms of your relationship, how you show up if you're financially stressed or stressed about working with people or working with your clients and growing through things and being able to, you know, am I worthy enough to deliver value to this person? When all those things come up and your own self-worth decreases a little bit, you put a little bit of stress on your partner. And it may not be, for example, actively being a dick to them. It could be, for example, just not doing the things you usually do, like acknowledging them, seeing them, appreciating them, the little bits of love that you usually love giving to someone and they love receiving. And that's, you know, sacrificing the best version of yourself. And then that can get slammed in your face when they have the example where they come at you and say like, look, I'm like not happy at the moment. I'm not really liking this relationship right now, whatever rut we're in, I want to get out of it. And you think, oh, God damn, like it was me. I got to take responsibility for everything. So what are all those weaknesses? For me, there's the spelling mistakes. And that's been jammed in my face a few times on stories and stuff when people highlight, hey man, probably should fix your stories. And understanding that, you know, with your professionalism and all your boundaries and all your weaknesses that come forth, is your responsibility as a leader to overcome them, grow through them, and integrate into more of who you are. Because I know that if you are creating a company, you're creating a business, or you really want to do something to the best of your ability, it's going to take the best of your ability, which usually comes down to a little bit of due diligence. And I know what works for me, for example, is getting out there and crushing it and just trying to smash everything all the time. And my biggest nemesis is taking my time and making sure that I go through things attention to detail. In future, I'm planning on having, you know, people that work for me. So I've got someone who already works for me now, but more people who act like the filter to make sure that doesn't happen. And there's systems and processes in place now which really help those little errors to not be there. And that's understanding your own weakness. But integrating into a better version of yourself is usually, for me, it's taking time before posting something and being more mindful and making sure that I'm doing meditative practices. So one is being aware of your weaknesses and be able to swallow the bitter truth and understanding that all your weaknesses and anything negative that's happening in your life is all your responsibility. And you want to own those weaknesses because they're what's going to shift the big needles. For example, my weakness of attention to detail for things. And it's not actually a weakness, it's before posting because I rush and I want to get things through. So I would actually say my main weakness is rushing, not so much attention to detail, which for me comes down to being more mindful, being more present, and taking more present time. But I love getting things done. So it's, you know, there's a weakness there. So for me to be the best leader is to take one step back and make sure that I'm prioritizing myself and my mindfulness so that when I make decisions or when I create something, it is of superb quality, or asking for feedback for it. You know your weaknesses, you can do something about them. So always, and I've said it again, but own your weaknesses and never be afraid. You should be seeking them, like feedback, like, oh, give it to me. I remember there was one, when I had a business coach, I jumped on a phone call with him and he's like, I've worked with thousands and thousands of business owners. Like he's been in the game for like 35 years. And I remember he said to me this, he said, I have worked with thousands and thousands of business owners, Corey, and I've helped so many people get to millions of dollars here and scale their businesses here. And it's been quite wholesome for me to come in and help these changes happen. And he said, never in my 35 years of coming in and coaching on business have I seen a business that is more of a complete, and I'm going to use this word seriously, clusterfuck of what I have seen with yours. And for me, I just pissed at laughing. I thought it was so funny. It's serious, but it was also so funny. I just started cacking up laughing. And I said to myself, yes, like give it to me. Like it hurt a little bit because I knew it was happening, but I knew it was a weakness. And I was like, this is the feedback that I want. This is the feedback that I need. Give it to me raw so I can go. And I remember he was like, this thing was wrong. This thing was going off. This thing is just going absolutely nowhere. And you've got this here. I remember within 15 minutes, I deleted so many things out my business. Subscriptions and websites and products and offers. Just goodbye. I got rid of so much. I tell you what, it felt so good. And, coming in and owning that and having someone help you own that is just miraculous. So beneficial. The great purge, we call it. I love it. Second point, projecting onto other people and your clients. So this is understanding when any of that negative mindset comes in or a scarcity mindset comes in, or you're working through something or going through an identity shift, which is sort of what I'm talking about in a minute, is understanding that you may or may not project that on other people and your clients. And you've got to be aware of that. Like really quite brilliantly, if part of your ego is being hyper conscious of everything that you're saying and that you're not saying something, and this is really good works in sales, not saying something to convince them of something that you like or you perceive really well. It's approaching the situation or talking to someone with complete unbias. So you're not putting any of your thoughts or your wishes or your desires or your fantasies or your urges or what you think is going to be best for them. You're helping them to create the best for them. And it's the same thing with your clients. And every time that you start talking to them is having that skeptical mindset that is, am I trying to bend them to my will, or am I creating an opportunity for them to level up, get stronger, build their character, and make decisions on their own, which is going to make them more effective and more efficient at what they're doing, right? And it's crazy having that mindset. So being able to listen to yourself talk is extremely, extremely powerful. And then admitting. So sometimes in a coaching conversation, I will say, I'm giving you this advice right now purely from the opinion of myself for what I think is right. Let me know how you take it. I don't want to bend your will or something else like that, but this is what I am currently thinking, and I'm speaking from my own experience. Feel free to disagree with me. And then I'll approach that situation. If I know that it's coming like, yep, cool. So this could be something that is more towards, my will, but I'm going to preface mentioning it before talking about it so that we're both aware of it. So then we can talk about it, because sometimes as a coach or when you're giving advice to people, it's like, this could be in the right direction, but I'm not 100% sure. And this is the only thing that's coming up for me. However, if you can communicate that, then that's completely fine. You guys can talk about it. And that's a moment that I like to call, it's a technique that I teach in my programs called thunderclap. It's a thunderclap moment, which is, being able to acknowledge your entire situation, all the thoughts and the unbiased and your ego, how the other person's thinking and feeling, what you're currently talking about, and then prefacing the advice and giving people the opportunity to disagree before communicating it. Now, if that was just a whole bunch of words to you, I apologize, but I challenge you to listen back to that, because that is one of the most elite special skills that I have worked with. And I coach people who are, worth squoodles of dollars and property portfolios and businesses and the rest of it. And, we use that technique all the time, and it's beautiful. So understanding that you may or may not project on other people and your clients, especially in your clients or your staff, and just having that awareness of unbiased is so powerful. You might be asking me the question, well, how do I get there, Corey? How do I understand that? And that just comes down to self-awareness. First thing, owning your own weaknesses first, understanding where your ego is at and how you're projecting it, and understanding that sometimes you may or may not influence others. So, and then being able to listen to yourself when you talk. Dun, dun, dun. It's funny because as I say that right now, I'm trying to listen to how I'm talking right now. So that's really funny. Number 3, understanding staff and clients who don't do something usually comes down to self-worth and stress. There are so many times, even with, my employee, George, who's not really my employee, he's my right-hand man. He's my support guy. He does everything behind the scenes. He's editing this video. Hi, George. And I just wanted to say that anytime that he's ever struggling with something or something isn't working right, and we have a discussion or there's something where we're like, the work that you're creating right now isn't exactly what we most want to have for the goals that we want to get to. And when we understand that sometimes he beats himself up about it or he gets down on it, it's like, for myself as a leader, looking at it and approaching it of being like, okay, the reason that these things aren't working right now has got nothing to do with his skill or ability. It's probably got to do more with his mood and his attitude, which is probably being affected from some stress that he is feeling that we're unaware of. And I can tell you right now, the hours that George and I have had on the phone conversation, talking nothing about business, making me emotional, talking nothing about business and all about his own personal life and his own mindset and where these struggles and these things are coming from to help us overcome them so that he can get back into work. And every time we get to a block, there's something, emotionally or mentally that's getting in the way, or there's a fear that is surfacing, or he's ready for a new transformation somewhere else. And we've just got to talk about it. And then he's like, I feel fantastic. Gets back in and does the most brilliant work I've ever seen ever. And it's just like loving it, having the best time. And it all comes down to good communication. But, understanding and having that mindset that every time something is wrong, it's usually something to do with inside his heart, soul, body, or mind, something like that. And figuring that out and getting to that core of that problem is the best. Now, I do know with staff, sometimes they feel like guilty, and I've been in this position too, guilty to be like, oh, I'm actually really upset about this, or something's happening, I'm not feeling worthy enough, like I'm not doing a good enough job. And I know sometimes it's worked with me and George, is I'll ask him for something, I'll say to him, what reassurance would you like to hear from me? And this whole time, like it could be like, a few days when I'm stressed or focusing on something, and I just haven't acknowledged him, like the poor guy. And oh my goodness, like I haven't acknowledged or celebrated any of the brilliant work that you've been doing. That's on me as a leader. I'm so sorry. These are the things that I have seen this week that have absolutely blown my mind that you've been focusing on. Then we get to talk about it, and then we go, hell yeah, like we both feel good and we're high-fiving and we feel great again. And that mood and that attitude like carries along the way. And I do believe yourself, and if you're in a position as leader, it's your responsibility to have your mood and your attitude up really high, like protecting that like you would protect someone the person who you most love. Like protecting your own energy is so important. So that doesn't also just happen with staff and clients, it's also friends, it's also bosses, and it's also like anyone around you is great influence. When they're stressed or something comes up, usually it's some sort of block of them like not feeling worthy enough and getting down on themselves. And I've told this story before, even with George, like I had to, for example, sort of rip him out of his old job, like come work with me like this. Cause he was like, I don't feel good enough to come in and, start working full time as a content director. And I was like, no, you're here and you're worth it, baby. Let's go. Same thing happens with all of the strategy and the sales calls that I have before people who jump into the Set the Standard community. So many men are in the position where they just don't feel worth it. They're like, why would I spend money on me? And it just absolutely blows my mind of like, why not spend money on you? For example, there is so many people, I'm not sure with the personal development community, but in my mind and what I see is that I see that a lot of men fall behind because women are investing them in themselves like until the cows come home. They're investing themselves like crazy on all these transformational processes because they understand, intuitively that what feels good for them is going to work. But men beat themselves up and this is not to say like putting in two categories, because I'm just speaking of what I see. And I know that there's a lot of women that also go through the other journey and a lot of men who do invest in themselves as well. So this is just from my own perception. So please, if you're listening to this, don't feel that I'm, putting an agenda on each gender, right? I'm putting an agenda on each gender. So I'm not. This is just what I see in my reality. And for men in that position is because they don't feel they either give too much or they people please or they're trying really hard to do something and they have this hero complex. They find it hard to spend money on themselves. And it's the self-worth thing of sort of trusting themselves, trusting their others, a fear of commitment, a fear of failing, a fear of letting other people down. And those fears are just keeping them in a comfort zone that's preventing them from getting to the next level of their life and achieving true happiness, fulfillment, success, and freedom, and financial freedom and love. And it blows my brain when people have an emotional experience and understand something in our community and like are just so on the ball for yes, I'm coming in, and then some sort of financial barrier comes in. Sometimes it's really small, like a deposit or something else, or sometimes it's big and they get to have these beautiful experiences of like, yes, I'm putting this money into me. And then they just go like, shit, and they bail out. And they message me like a week or a month later, like apologizing sometimes, or committing like later on, like, why the hell didn't I do this earlier? Or people be on the fence listening to my content for like a year before jumping in the community and they go, I know that I want this. And they come to all the free stuff and whatever it is. They come to the events, but they don't jump into the community because they're like, oh, why am I actually worth it? And everyone's listening. If anyone who's listening right now and that's you, like you're worth it, man. Whether you invest in me or you invest in something else, in terms of you working on yourself, you owe it to yourself to invest in yourself, because I promise you, when you do, the best leaders in the world, the best podcasters, the best, workers, leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, whatever they are in the world, invest in themselves all the time. I remember doing a session, like I did a session with Toby Pierce. I remember talking to him and he says, he pays someone who has like the credentials in philosophy, sort of like Jordan Peterson, who's on that level in Australia, and he wouldn't tell me his name because he doesn't want to be talked about. But he's like, I pay him $80,000 a year to coach me in philosophy. Wow, I would love to be in a position, like I can't wait to be in a position, I'm going to damn well be in that position to pay someone to coach me for that as well. Like that is amazing. And how much it is actually learning. It's like, well, if someone is at the top doing that to put in their own education, if you think about the percentage of income that they actually pay themselves for that, like it's probably quite significant. And it's like out of the percentage of income that you're paying on yourself, it's like, how much is that? What are you worth? It was a real good question. I know it was on a little bit of a tangent there, but what I find is so many heartbroken men because girls are accelerating, women who are investing in themselves accelerate really quickly, have transformation. And then the men feel like they're feeling left behind. And I have quite a few guys jump on our programs like, shit, we've been left behind. And, my partner's going this way and doing this and I really want to catch up. And they come in the program, they do the work, and they damn well catch up. And it's great to see. So I just want to say that is real and it's happening and it's in my reality. And I don't think it's necessarily a problem. The problem is self-worth of the modern man. And I just love to completely change that for people, which leans into the next crisis, what I've had to grow through, which is identity shift and my own stories for identity shifting. Oh my goodness. It's 2023, guys, if you're listening to this, and within the past year, I've probably had like 4 or 5 massive identity crises of someone who saw themselves as a personal development coach or a personal development mentor. I've gone through as a business owner. I've gone as a salesman. I've gone as back to a personal development company owner. I've gone from, a partner, a good partner, a terrible partner, back to a good partner. Like there's so many different identity crises that I've had. And oh my goodness, I tell you, every single time I've had one and acknowledged it and grown through that has been the best. Now, one of the things which is really awesome as a personal development company owner and someone who teaches this professionally for a living, is seeing identity crises in other people, whether it be people in my program, my partner, my parents, my friends. You can see it happening all the time. And then when it happens to you, it's a little bit more difficult, but you can navigate it. And I had this reflection from my partner. She's like, Corey, one thing I'm really proud about you and I see in you is that you literally have the ability to coach yourself through things. Saying that makes me feel emotional. She's like, you have the ability to coach yourself through things, but I've been impressed recently that you actually ask for help. And it's like, when I get to the point, I'll coach myself through as best as I can. When it gets to the point where I've got to ask for help, I will ask for help and talk to people. And every time that I've done that or reminded myself of that by having a thunderclap moment, like, hey, awareness, I need to own my weaknesses and chat to someone right now, it's helped me break through something so much more quickly, whether it be a relationship or myself with my career or it be a finance thing. Usually it comes down to some sort of self-worth stress for the clients in your community, or comes down to if like a financial stress that you're not hitting the targets that you're attached to and understanding that they're attachments, and then your message and how you're communicating. So because I run a lot of Facebook ads and I post a lot of content, YouTube, podcast, everything else, is I know what to talk about. And sometimes I'll keep talking about things that I've grown through that I used to work through like 2.5 years ago. And I don't want to talk about those things anymore. And then when I notice myself talking about them because I'm good at talking about them, it's self-sacrificing all the things that I have currently integrated and learnt recently or a couple of months ago, all the other stories. And then talking about those things and then having conversations with people and with clients or with potential clients or with my partner or some of my friends that are conversations that used to charge me up, who don't charge me up now, sacrifice myself. And then I'm having conversations that aren't firing me up and aren't charging me up and it's bringing me down essentially. And yeah, they're still powerful conversations and they still help people and they're still like amazing and I'm still so passionate about them. Like I don't talk about porn and masturbation anymore because it was like, that's ages ago. That's done out the window. Like if someone's in my coaching community, yes, I'll help them go through that immediately and talk and teach about it. But if they're not, then absolutely not. I don't really wish to speak about that anymore as it's so far gone. And I want to talk to people who have already integrated those things. And what are the conversations that come after that about, expanding and growing and the challenges of having responsibility for other people in their life financially. And so he says like all that fires me up, and getting really clear on how your mindset works and taking massive action and learning the myths that make us and all those things. That's like what inspires me. I love talking about that. And also making money and business, like after, business degrees, graduating with honors, project management degrees, creating my own businesses, doing business courses and having lots of business coaching and training, I forget to see myself as like, hey, look, I can build a really solid business. Like I can help anyone build a business up to $500,000 a year. I'm not going to essentially teach that, because that's not what I'm most passionate about. I trust in my own business abilities and being able to speak on how to create success and how to create finance through all the mindset shift and the identity shifts in order to get people to do what they most need to be doing. That's where I always see the biggest results. People know their businesses. Entrepreneurs understand what they're doing. They know what they most need to be doing. But for some reason, there's this big block in them, as I was talking beforehand, about not feeling worthy enough, or there's a stress or fear of failing or fear of letting people down, which gets in the way, prevents them from getting there. So when we work through those things, that's why when people come to my programs, I get goosebumps right now, we get huge results. Right? Like people go from $20,000 to $500,000 in a month. Or we see people go from Robbie went from $85,000 a year on a salary, quit his job 8 months or 12 months later, he revenued $3 million. Like, what the hell? You know what I mean? That happens all the time. We're seeing people quit their jobs like crazy and like start to achieve success and go on their hero's journey. Like, oh, that fires me up. Anyway, so those identity shifts, I had to do the exercises. Remember having absolute meltdowns and feeling so stuck and just having days where nothing was coming out of my mouth. I just lay in my bed like, what the hell? And just having this, feel like there's a dark cloud and it's just raining on me. And I'm just covered in green slime and it's heavy to move my arms up and I just, yuck. Just for days on end. It's like, I know I'm here, I know I'm emotional, I'll try crying, try something else. And all it come down to was just, back to owning my weaknesses, is understanding who I am currently right now, how fast I've grown, what are my weaknesses, what am I most passionate about. Talk about that. Do what you most want to be doing, because if you don't and you're trying to make money doing something that you're not most want to be doing, then that's self-sacrifice. It's sort of like chasing passive income. So I'm pretty against passive income. I like Daniel Priestley's view on this. And let me explain why really quickly. The reason that I'm against it is because if your goal is passive income, then your goal is essentially wanting to do nothing without making and still making money, right? Which is a really good goal. But then what you're going to do is do things that you don't like doing to achieve that passive income, and focusing on things like the quick thing, or like what's going to get me the biggest result quickly, or what's going to do this, what's going to free me up, instead of maybe taking the longer route. As I mentioned beforehand, our brain and the fear response in our brain thinks the whole world is scarce and that a drought is coming. But the world is abundant and has always been abundant. And when you think about economies and markets, remember some of my close entrepreneur friends ran me through this. Like, okay, if you look at a market like fast food or something, you know what I mean? Like $100 billion, I don't know, whatever, something crazy. He's like, and you've got these people who dominate this amount, which leaves a free amount of like $5 billion, something like that, where there is individual people trying to make a buck out of it. And if you take your slice of $2 million a year, it's very easy to go out there and do that. Like as soon as the market goes, that's not actually very big. It's just your own mindset of thinking like, I couldn't actually do that. Or I don't want to put in the thousands of hours and the money and the investments to get there, because my mindset says do something quick and achieve money here. Crazy, right? Crazy. So having those identity shifts, and that was an identity shift, so just understanding, what it actually takes was nuts. And understanding my own scarcity mindset, which is the next point in this podcast, is scarcity mindset. That is one thing I had to go through. So big is understanding that every decision that you make, if it's out of scarcity, is going to produce scarce results. It's going to keep you scarce. What is the thing that you most want to do? What's going to charge you up the most? In terms of, abundance, making an abundant decision is once you commit to something, your brain will figure it out. And it's all the doubts and all the ego and all the projections that maybe your parents or friends or something had on you growing up around money or creating your own business or even chasing your dreams, and people just squashing that down like, oh, you can never do that. This person can't do that. Someone's got to do this job, whatever it is. And it's like, no, absolutely not. You can absolutely do whatever you want if you're committed enough and willing to die trying for it, which is why I teach purpose and vision so much in our program. And the people who do and go through the courses, they go through the Overcome the Chaos and the All-In program, they all get to the position where they level up their careers, quit their jobs, start something new, or just 10x what they're currently doing, and have a conversation with someone who could potentially change their life that they've been hesitating because they know that it's coming, and then commit to that and watch these big results because they have the confidence and the self-worth to get there because they've sort of figured out their own scarcity mindset. And essentially, if I says, what is a scarcity mindset? I would simply say it's just when your fear brain is dominant with making decisions. That's it. How do you get out of your fear brain? Eating well, having a good routine, going to bed early, making sure that you're exercising, drinking really well, having good relationships, having time for yourself, and giving people love, to who's that deserve it, and also being able to receive love and feeling proud of yourself. That is how you remove the fear out of decisions, because your mood and your attitude is up, your love cup is full. So regardless of the decision that you make, it doesn't matter because you're grateful for everything. Then you can go, cool, well, my life is awesome. What's the biggest, baddest challenge and what do I most want to do? And let's go out there and absolutely crush it. And I see people do all the time. It's amazing. Next point, financial respect. So with the scarcity mindset and money is, if you don't pay attention to your money, money is an energy, sort of like the cold, right? I believe money is like the cold. The cold can have these beautiful benefits for you, especially in an ice bath. You get into an ice bath, it's like, oh, this is amazing. You get in here for 10 minutes, 15 minutes or something, and then you have this amazing feeling afterwards. You get so comfortable and really well. But if you go in there for your first ever ice bath and you punch out 20 or 30 minutes and hit mild hypothermia, like you're going to know about it. And you're going to shake and you're going to regret it and wish that you didn't. And it's going to bite you and it's going to hurt you. If you stay in there for a long enough period of time, or you're out in the cold and maybe it was unplanned, as you know that hypothermia is real. And if you're cold for long enough, like that can injure you. So the cold is this beautiful experience to boost your immune system and have all these benefits. But it's also need to respect it because it can hurt you and it can, for example, cause some damaging effects or make you really uncomfortable. Same thing with money. It's this beautiful, beautiful thing. And after speaking to some of like my mentors and people that I've coached and some of the people that I look up to and respect, is they say like money is one of the most beautiful things in the world. And it's a blessing to have. And we should love it, not with the intention to do bad things or abuse it. It's just love it for the fact that it helps us get what we want and make people happy around us, and we can do things and we can express the best version of ourselves with the more money that we have. So we should all be striving to make as much as possible. I truly believe that. And the second that we hate money or disagree with money, or it comes back and bites us in the arse, or we find this stress, we have this negative relationship that's like, wow, I have to deal with all of this. Or if I'm not paying attention to it here and I bought a jet ski and I bought my business partner around, I did all these other things, it goes like, oh, wow, I do not have as much profit or as much as I like, or I've spent too much, or I didn't pay the tax, or I didn't save a thing. It's like, it will bite you. So with financial respect is love it, but also have this tone and appreciation that it could come back and bite you if you don't respect it. So it's sort of like having a respectful mindset when it comes to abundance and spending money. And I tell you what, like that's one of the best lessons I've ever learned. 2 more and then we'll finish up. So your current clients are always your biggest asset. Oh my goodness. Every single time there's a problem happening or I have a mental block or something is just in the way, I ask all my clients, I just literally ask them or talk to them and all my answers are just right there. And it could be like, oh, I'm dealing with this financial stress, but I want to do an event with everyone. And everyone's like, hell yeah, let's go for the event. Or I want to do a new program and everyone's rebuying. And I'm like, oh, wicked. I've got all my finance back again. This is the best thing ever. It could be, for example, that I'm not sure what to post or I'm not sure the value is right. And then I ask, my clients, what's everyone thinking? What's their ideas? What's this? And they go, well, these things should be shifted, but we're loving this and this is the best. And this is amazing. Like, oh my goodness. And then just talking to your clients and asking them, just essentially hanging out with them. So our community is amazing. And I was hanging out. I was literally chatting to them last night, some of the people. And we finished a call and a couple stayed. And I'm like, hey, I'm happy to hang out for a little bit if you guys are keen. Like, we're just going to chat and talk about an event that's coming up recently. And we're just chatting and they're like, they're racking up, some of them just on calls talking to people in the community because I love it so much. Something like 20 to 24 hours a week of phone calls in the community. And they're telling me they've got chats here. They've booked another calls with these people. They've got these Facebook groups happening. They're starting these businesses together or seeing each other and buying each other's services and supporting each other and just catching up and having Zoom calls and phone calls and texting each other and pushing people forward and using the techniques in our communities and programs to, they're like, dude, I use this technique, that thing that you taught in this program, and I blew this person's brain and it just made me me feel amazing that I could contribute to their life. And I was just listening to all those things, and I'm just like, I fucking love what I do so much. And I'm just so proud to have these people in my life and have them just crush it and just see them absolutely thriving, and the happiness in them. It's like the moments that I had coaching them, I'm living vicariously through the moments that they're having the same experience coaching somebody else for free, mind you, just because they love it. And that, it blows my brain. That's like fills my heart with like all the fulfillment and meaning in the world. So the Roy's the biggest asset. All the guys that set the standard. I love you. Next one is asking for more money. So this one and one more, and then we'll leave it on that. Sorry, guys. So asking for more money is a real huge one. So I think this is super powerful because this comes out to your own self-value. And it's really interesting because I had no idea that everyone has money mindset problems. Like everyone is facing, especially in Australia, deals with the whole scarcity and financial stuff, and everyone's mindset's crazy in terms of value. And I remember first asking for like $2,000, and then the first time asking for $20,000, upfront, scared the living shit out of me. And it wasn't until I invested $20,000 into myself that I gave myself permission, and the next week I made it back straight away. I asked them like, this is $20,000. I was like, whoa, blow my mind. And going through the experience of being able to see value, look at value, create more value, and ask for it is an amazing skill. And a majority of the time, depending who you want to work with or what you're doing, asking for more money is actually asking for more commitment, essentially. And if you've got a program, something like mine, which does take a lot of commitment, we're always increasing the prices and asking for more money and delivering more value and finding more ways, to do that so that we've got more money to reach more people that are just like us, so we can get them in and help them out and have them have crazy results, right? And that's very fulfilling to me. Not just the financial aspect. Yes, I absolutely love money, but what I want to do with the money for myself personally, and I'm just like, maybe I'm bending my wheel a little bit here, is what I want to do personally is help people get huge results like really quickly through learning all this stuff. So I'll just ask yourself the question here is like, how could you ask for more money? And this is a skill that we teach in our all-in program, Set the Standard community. You can DM me, click links below, book in a call, whatever it is, and I can chat to you about it and walk you through. But there's a process of being able to figure out and actually ask for more money. And I can tell you right now, it's one of the best things that you can do. Even if you get rejected, learning how to do that, change your mind, especially when someone says yes, and the value within inside yourself is crazy. I know as a coach, when I am not asking for the certain amount of money that I think I am specifically worth, I'm not going to provide a good value. And if I charge under my value for something and like, yep, I'm settling for a scarcity thing here, then it makes me feel like shit and I can't deliver for that person as best as I could. Now it's like, okay, now we have a difficult conversation that I have to have here, which really sucks. Or the clients that haven't gone through and haven't succeeded have come out of a decision like that. And the ones who have succeeded and have crushed it have been like, cool, I'm going to ask more money than I've ever asked for in my life. And I'm going to give this person the best result ever. And they've gone, yes. And I've given them the best result ever. And on calls after calls, they're saying like, this is the best thing I've ever done. And it makes me emotional again. It's like, and they're like, this is the best thing I've ever done. And my values increase. People pay attention. And when you're also in the realm of, spending a lot of money on yourself, it's sometimes you have to do that to stay accountable, to actually listen and implement and integrate everything that someone is teaching you or encouraging you to do. They've got the experience. They know that, same thing with a car. Like you go in there, what the hell's wrong with my car? You've got no idea. You paid $500 for a service and there's just this one little cap that needs to be tied. No one else could figure it out. But if there's one person who had the expertise of 50 years being a mechanic, like, yep, this is the one thing, fixed it here. Was that worth the money? Absolutely. I was run around town trying to figure out somebody just needed to tighten something for you. Of course it was worth the money. That's sort of exactly what happens. And it's a beautiful thing to see, especially in the coaching industry. So one is also moving through boundaries and people jumping in and out the program. So having your own boundaries and sort of finishing calls on time. Like that's a huge one for me, and being able to implement them. People paying things on time, letting people go, that's a huge one. So when people actually need to jump out the program, for myself personally, with my personality, I'm like, I love people in. So I've had to tighten up those things and be like, oh, cool, at this time, this date, like we're out, we finish, and we get to actually celebrate each other and have like a real good time talking, and then like go out there and crush it. I'll be following you in the journey, keep you in the loop for anything that's happening new, which is so fantastic because every time you're attached to something, something's not coming out. Boundaries inside yourself. So having time for yourself in the morning, being able to run and jog during the day, being able to cook your food and prepare your food and eat your food and have time to walk around and do what you most love doing, or it could be listening to an audiobook or meditating or something like that. Yes, you may not be in the position if you're working in a job. And I remember working in my job, I would book out, I would ask my boss and I talk to them, I eat at this time, this time, this time. I hope that's okay. Like, and I'd talk to them, even if it's frustrated. I know it's unique and I'm the only one who does it, but I'm a professional bodybuilder and this is what, you know, I most need to work at my best, and we figure something out. Like I have a smaller lunch break, or I work a little bit later, or there's something that convinces. And then at lunchtime was like, cool, every single lunchtime before I go to lunch, I want to meditate for just literally 10 minutes for all the reasons to keep my calm down. There's a lot of pressure and this is how I'm going to crush it at work. And I won like innovative awards at work. I grew really quickly and scaled up to like, you know, doing leadership training and performance conversation training at work, specifically because I put those boundaries in for myself. And now applying them into the real world and in your own business, when you love something so much, I find is really hard, but understanding that it's you serving yourself best serves yourself best, right? And it's one of the best things that I've ever done, and continue to work on and finding these boundaries and then integrate again, then finding these boundaries and finding the language and integrating again. Great thing to know the communication skills, because I tell you what, it works. Then is getting your own coach. Oh my goodness. This is one of the best things ever. Like being in a business and like growing my personal development company was like, cool, I've got the skills and capacity and mindset that I can handle all of this. And quite quickly, after trying to, you know, handle everything at a maximum capacity, which I thought was really impressive, I was like, why am I trying to handle this? Like, who am I trying to prove all of this to? Get yourself an accountant and pay for them to do everything. Get yourself a business coach that can help you out. Have someone that can help you figure out your ads. Employ someone to do all of your crazy work. And all those things are just like, oh my goodness. So having your coaches in the right areas for you, I always believe is so critically important. Not out of the sake of your own proving yourself or being your own hero or something like that. It's just going to help you get to your goals more quickly. So that's it. That are some of the things that I've had to grow through myself personally, and going through getting your own coach was a big one, because I love responsibility and I love doing everything myself. Like I feed off of that, but now leaning into and asking for help all the time. Well, I've been doing that for a long period of time now, but growing through that was extremely important. And it was a big deal for me, like going in and getting coaching and asking for, you know, accountant who I catch up with regularly just to run over everything and coach me through the processes has been beautiful. And I've had to surrender and let go into it. And every time it comes up like, oh, I got to do this thing, or I should be doing this, blah, blah, blah. Let me just figure it out, because it's so much more quick. I can do it so much more quickly than other people. Is that never worked out because I was rushing. Anyway, guys, I hope you got a lot of value out of this podcast. If you did, please share it with someone and send it on to someone who you think would benefit from this. If you like it so much, please share it on your story. I would really appreciate that. I don't do any advertising on the podcast itself, so any story shares or sending to friends would be absolutely amazing for me. If you're interested in any of my programs and you want to level up and you want to really crush your year and you're ready for that, then send me a DM or book in a call below. If it's available, you can apply it. The link may work, it may not work, depending how many people are coming in. If not, send me a message and we'll figure something out, see what it's like. Or head to getstartedwithcorey.com, or head to my website, or head to my Instagram, Corey Boutwell, and you can find me right there. So big love, guys. See you in the next one.